Hey everybody, and welcome back to Enemy Archives, where enemies from the Legend of Zelda series are brought into the light. In the last two episodes of this series, we covered Lizalfos and Dynalfos, but it seems there is one more reptilian warrior we have yet to inspect. Today's featured reptile is the Aeralfos. Following the trend of Lizalfos and Dynalfos, Aeralfos are aerial foes, yet even on the ground, these enemies are extremely unpleasant. Aeralfos appear in two main series games, and overall, they are not the most well-known enemies. However, what you don't know can hurt you in this case, so without further ado, let's get started on today's episode. Enemy Archives, Aeralfos. Twilight Princess. For their first appearance, Aeralfos decided to go big as sub-bosses. Aeralfos appear in a few locations, like the Cave of Ordeals and Hyrule Castle, but they are most prominent in the City in the Sky. In this place, the first Aeralfos can be found guarding an item that Link will need later. The Aeralfos doesn't seem interested in negotiating, however, as it immediately acts hostile towards Link. Aeralfos come equipped with swords, as well as shields that are strikingly similar to clawshot targets. They aren't very strong, so they combine their aerial prowess with their fancy equipment to make up for their lack of brawn. However, they still have enough raw strength to get the job done. Aeralfos have some pretty intense combat moves. Normally, an Aeralfos will hover in midair, then swoop down directly at Link swinging its sword. When doing this, they usually hold their shield up to protect themselves, but this allows Link to grab the shield with his claw shot and attack the Aeralfos. After being pulled to the ground, the Aeralfos will stay on the ground for a short time and fight Link very carefully. A few moments later, it will return to the air, and the process will repeat. The Aeralfos in the City in the Sky has a second phase, where it will fly in and out of a room from multiple directions. However, Link can still pull the Aeralfos down to fight, but only if he's watching when the Aeralfos comes back into the room. With their misleading tactics and their nimble maneuvers, Aeralfos will halt almost any hero's quest. For a moment, at least. Triforce Heroes. The second and last main series game they've been in so far, Triforce Heroes brought back Aeralfos in the 2D format. Sticking true to their roots, these Aeralfos primarily stay in the air and swoop down on the Links when an opportunity presents itself. However, being a different style of game, many of their abilities are different, and they appear slightly different as well. None of this stops Aeralfos from being dangerous though, and they won't let you forget it if you get too close. Aeralfos appear in the Dragon Citadel in only one stage, but there are 3 of them to make up for their scarcity. In combat, Aeralfos have plenty of moves at their disposal. One common way they attack is by swooping down at a Link and immediately rising back into the air. Another attack they use is swooping down and swinging their swords wildly at the nearest Link. This leaves them exposed from the back, making it easy for one of the other Links to sneak attack the exposed Aeralfos. Every once in a while, an Aeralfos may whip up a small tornado, which can be pretty annoying even though it doesn't do any damage. Though Aeralfos have shields, it's hard to say if they can be removed, as the Links cannot have a grip shot when they encounter the Aeralfos. All in all, Aeralfos are pretty competent opponents in this game, but supposedly there's an even stronger kind of Aeralfos waiting ahead. Let's take a quiz break and have a look at the results of the last episode's quiz. It looks like 80% of the responses were for A, while the other 20% were for B. Every other answer had 0% of the guesses, which is fine since they were all wrong anyway. The correct answer was A, the Gerudo Training Ground. Now, before we go any further, I regret to announce that YouTube is no longer supporting the poll service. That means from this video forward, there will be no more polls like the last one. However, I will still be asking questions to you, the viewer, which you can answer. I try to check and reply to every comment, so if you have a question or response, then feel free to post it and I'll try to answer as soon as I can. Sorry about the inconvenience. Alright, let's turn the spotlight back to our scaly enemies, the Aeralfos. While Aeralfos are pretty dangerous as they are, there are a couple of special types of Aeralfos that show up in Triforce Heroes. Let's take a quick look at what makes them unique. Even though Aeralfos are quite deadly enemies, it seems some Aeralfos have flown to even greater heights. Super Aeralfos are a stronger type of regular Aeralfos, and they look even stronger to show it. Two Super Aeralfos show up right before the final boss fight as the final sub-bosses in Triforce Heroes' main quest. They act quite similarly to regular Aeralfos, yet they also have a new trick up their sleeve. Lizalfos could do it, Dynalfos could do it, and now the Super Aeralfos can do it too. Yes, Super Aeralfos can breathe fire. When they use this attack, they swoop down toward a Link and let out a deadly wave of flames. This inferno can send the Links running out of control, possibly resulting in them taking even more damage. Super Aeralfos can also have their shields stolen, but for this to be possible, the Links must have a grip shot on hand. Thankfully, unlike when fighting regular Aeralfos, the Links can choose to have a grip shot when fighting a Super Aeralfos. The Den of Trials is a dungeon full of many monsters, including almost every enemy in Triforce Heroes. However, there are some enemies that are unique to the Den of Trials, including dark variants of almost every regular enemy. Dark Super Aeralfos are almost certainly the most powerful of these dark enemies, reserved for the battle right before the boss room of the Den of Trials. These Aeralfos are twice as tough as their normal counterparts, and they have some special boosts to their attacks. First of all, they can produce smoky tornadoes that curse whoever gets in the way. A curse effect makes Link unable to swing his sword or use any items, but thankfully the effect wears off after a few seconds. Dark Super Aeralfos have swords which inflict curses as well, so if the Links aren't careful, they will be stuck helpless while these dark foes relentlessly attack. As if this wasn't already enough, their strong attacks now deal twice as much damage. No wonder these monsters are so rare. What kind of Aeralfos is your favorite? Let me know in the comments. Also, if there's an enemy you'd like to see covered eventually, let me know just in case I don't have it in mind. There will be a new Enemy Archives episode in around 2 weeks, so keep an eye out for that. Once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time you're in the Legend Zone.